What is happening, everybody? MG here, MG Covers, bringing you a brand new sports handicapping video. Title of this video, NBA win cover percentage strategies for profitable betting. We are going to answer the question, what is the percentage chances when a team wins in the NBA, they also cover? I want you to think about the answer to that question. In NFL, we know it's 80%. Make a few announcements. I want you to get your thinking caps on and try to guess, because I think you're going to be shocked when I reveal what that percentage is. Before we do that, as always, greatly appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Majority of what you see out there related to sports handicapping as far as education, I'll just be honest, it's garbage. If you subscribe to the channel, I'm not the only channel that delivers good content, but there's only a few of us that's actually putting out true, unadulterated truth about sports handicapping. So if you follow me, subscribe to the channel, you will get a ton of value and improve your sports handicapping. You can follow me on Instagram, MGCovers, cover spelled with a Z. Give out a ton of content on Instagram. So let's dive into this. I'm going to show you that exact percentage, but I want to walk you through the process of how I sort of explored this idea. And let's go back to 2 nights ago. Milwaukee was playing Miami. Now, this is the line movement here. You can see. Now, we actually had this game. My model had this game at even, so it was under consideration and actually should have been a play. But Miami had some injuries, and I didn't think that this line would move in their favor, but it actually did. And while I'm here, this is a great example of sharp movement. Sharp line movement is defined as late and subtle, meaning line movement that occurs late. This occurred basically about 30 minutes before tip off, and it only moved a half point. If you see a line move from -9, -8.5, -8, -7.5, more times than not, there's generally like an injury. That's what I call a public line move. But this is clearly sharp movement. Line moved in favor of Miami about 30 minutes before tip off. Miami not only won, but they also covered, which we're going to figure out that percentage in a second. So what happened in this game, I didn't think this line would move. And then when I went back to handicap another game, Miami was ahead. And so I thought, man, I should play this on the money line. I could get live money line for -103. Should have been a play, but I hesitated and didn't, because I thought, well, if I was going to play it, I should have gotten the points at +7.5, because there was more value there as opposed to playing them just to win, even though we're ahead. So then I thought, I need to investigate this, because I had never really investigated or researched, teams that win in the NBA, what are the percentage times that they actually cover. Now, we know in NFL it's 80%. And the reason is the margin of victory in NFL is the most popular margin of victory is 3. The other number is 7, and there's some numbers in between there. So majority of the time, 80% of the time in NFL, if a team wins, they also cover. That's why the majority of time you should play on the money line in the NFL if you're playing a dog. Okay. So I want to give you let's look at an example. I'm going to show you the entire log. I literally ran this for every single day in January. It's a 181 game sample, but I want to walk through a few days for you so you can see it for real. So what we mean by that, teams win and covering. Teams that win, what percentage times do they actually cover? Now, this is important. I used a criteria of -9.5 or less. The reason being is the average margin of victory in NBA is 11. And that's important to know that, because that means everything regresses to the mean. So if I ran this report for teams that win and cover from -11 to -20, it would be far less than what I'm going to show you here, because the average margin of victory is 11. So that means if the line is -4 and that team wins, they're covering that number a large majority of the time. And I'm going to show you the actual percentage. But let's walk through this. This is from January the 1st. New York was +1.5. They won and covered. Toronto -2.5. They won and covered. Indiana +8. They won and covered. Houston -9.5. Won and covered. Again, you can see Denver there was -17. They cover that number, but we're not going to count that for now. Phoenix -9.5. They won and covered. Utah +4.5. They won and covered. Clippers -8. Won and covered. So boom, January 1st, a perfect 7-0. Okay. Let's go to 11:15. I mean 1:15. I'm sorry. And the site I'm using right here is sportsbookreview.com. They basically show all the offshore books. Got a couple sharp books in there. Bet Any Sports, Bookmaker. Also have line movement for Pinnacle as well. Okay. Philadelphia minus 7.5, one in covered. Dallas plus 4.5, one in covered. Detroit plus 5.5, one in covered. Orlando plus 6.5, one in covered. Atlanta minus 8.5, one in covered. Memphis plus 7.5, one in covered. And you're looking at these money line dogs covering. Not only are they covering, but they're also winning outright. So it would be advantageous to play these instead of taking the points to play them on the money line. Cleveland minus 4, one in covered. Miami minus 1. That would be a push there. Boston minus 7. They won and covered. Utah minus 7, one and covered. Lakers plus 2, one and covered. Now I want to show you an exception. So let's take a look at games from 122. So we'll look at some games where the line is greater than the God, don't lock up. Sometimes this computer locks up when I'm trying to record. And it looks like that's what it did here. Let's refresh it, see if we can pull this up. Okay, so let's go to here we go. My apologies on this. Sometimes it has a little bit of lag here when I'm recording the screen. All right, 122. Now, again, we're running this report from minus 9.5 or less. Look what happens when this line goes above the mean, which is minus 11, the average margin of victory. Milwaukee minus 12.5, won, but did not cover. Philadelphia minus 13.5, won and didn't cover. So right there, one concept that you could look at when you're handicapping or looking at big spreads, meaning like you could look at spreads from say minus 11 or greater and just focus on those because again, based on the average margin of victory, everything's going to regress down towards that 11. So it's going to be more difficult for a team to cover a minus 12, a minus 13, a minus 16 than it would be to cover a minus 3, a minus 4. I know that seems elementary, but sometimes saying it like that helps you understand it and gives you a focus. So those are some good examples. Now let's go to the actual log. So again, I did this for every single game from January 1st. And you can see January 1st, 7-0, 5-0, 9-2, 0-1, 11-0, 4-0, 7-0. I won't go through every single one of them, but this is a significant sample size. And when I say a significant sample size, this means if we ran this to 500 games or if we did 1,000, you're going to probably see similar results, probably minus 2 to 3%. 158 times teams won and covered in the NBA when the line was minus 9.5. They only lost or only didn't cover 23 times. 87% of the time in the NBA when the line is minus 9.5, teams win and cover. I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed it would be a lot less than that, but it makes sense when you understand stats because the average margin of victory is what? It's 11 points in the NBA. So super, super fascinating. Again, application of this is, you want to play money line dogs. And a lot of you watching this might say, well, obviously you're going to lose sometimes if you play a money line team, meaning like play the money line instead of taking the points. Yep, you're going to lose 13% of the time. And understand this is sort of a mind trick. And 87% of the time, if you play a money line and it loses 87% of the time, the points would not have helped you, because there's the data. I mean, we're looking at it. I mean, I just basically showed you that. So super, super fascinating. And what I want to show you, I'm already, without really thinking about this, doing this and doing this anyway. And if you watch some previous videos, I made a video, or I think I've said in the past, if the line is 5.5 or less, plus 5.5 or less, play on a money line. If it's greater than that, you should take the points. But now I'm leaning towards, just based on the data we have now, that it's probably advantageous to um, play teams on the money line when that line is minus 9.5 or plus 9.5. And let me show you this. This is my record. I pulled this for BetStamp. This is my record for NBA year to date, meaning like from January. We're 40-32, 55%, which is really good. Skip that 11-4. We're 19-14 on sides, and that 10-14 is totals. If you watch the previous video, I talked about the model being sharp. It's really not for totals, but for sides, it really is. But for totals, it's not. So I stopped wagering totals. 11-4 are my money line plays. We are 11-4 with this model on the money line. So I'm already doing a lot of this now. There's probably in that 11-4 a couple of money line favorites, meaning I think twice where the line was -1, instead of playing -1, 110, we played minus like -110 on the money line for them to win, which is a better play. But I mean, there's the facts right there that it actually is advantageous to, instead of taking the points in the NBA, if that line is, single digits, much more advantageous to play it on the money line. And if you're watching me for the first time, or hear me, or watching one of my videos for the first time, this is one of the sports betting secrets to play money line dogs, because your win percentage, you can be extremely profitable in this business hitting less than 50%. And I pretty much have my whole career, because again, if you just play sides, you're going to have to hit 54% to turn any kind of profit. Much easier to incorporate money line dogs, hit 50% or less, and much easier to turn a profit. And another example from the other night, we played Orlando. They were plus 2.5, and again, we lost. However, we didn't. For those people that took the points, they ended up having to lay -110. Whereas if you play a money line and you lose, you pay no juice, essentially. So super fascinating, super educational video. And again, I think when you're handicapping, another way to do this, those of you that are not clients or don't have a model, all you're really doing in NBA, now that we know this is true, if that line is -9.5, all you're doing is picking the winner. Meaning, if you're looking at the game and you say, wow, this is the better team, but I'm not sure if they'll cover. If you think they'll win, 87% chance they're going to cover. And it's the same deal if you think like, wow, 5 points for this game, that's a lot of points to give up. I'm not sure this team is going to cover that +5. Then the team that you think is going to cover the +5, advantageous to simply play that team on the money line. So greatly appreciate you guys watching this video. I know it was a little bit longer, but super fascinated by this. And again, I'm already doing this now, but it's going to give me a lot more confidence to play some of those dogs in, say, like that +7, +8. And then one final thing too, real life application. Let's say tonight, if I have a +9.5 dog, I still may play that. I still may take the points. There may be situations where I do that, right? So it's not a cut and dry situation, because we know that the closer it gets to that 11, the more difficult it is to cover that number. So keep that in mind when you're handicapping. Greatly appreciate you guys watching this video. If you want to access these power rankings where we've hit basically 55% NBA year to date, you can do that. It's $50 a month. There's a link to join the description box. If you want access to everything I just mentioned, you get access to all my videos as well. If you want access to my plays, that's $100 a month. And if you join for an entire year, that's the best value. Instead of paying $100 a month, you can pay $500 one time, get access to everything on the site for $500. Greatly appreciate you guys watching. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.